So before we kind of kick into the content, Ante, please, I'd love to hear from your mouth. I've read it, obviously. I've seen it talked about online. Can you help us understand the kind of founding story of Moss? You're obviously the CEO and one of the co-founders. So paint a bit of a picture there in terms of what was the where did the genesis come from, and maybe that will lay some nice foundations in terms of what we're going to discuss today.
Thanks, absolutely, and thanks for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure. So we got the idea from Moss in our prior company, and the situation was it was a tech startup, it was a marketplace model, and we grew very quickly to 20-30 million ARR. And in the first 2 years, we hit the 30 mark already. However, the whole company was exclusively focused and centered on product build out, commercial engine, growth, and finance was seen as a kind of as a legacy, as a burden. Yeah? So we had to clean up. It was a massive cleanup. The first audit was a huge pain, and this triggered this kind of like the first thought around how is it even possible that finance is still so manual, that it's, how is it possible there is no toolkit that connects basic finance, payments, accounting, and all of those things into one platform. And this kept me going. Yeah. So even after that company, while I was an investor, it kept me going, and we talked to finance professionals, to CFOs and others. And at a certain point in time, it was the passion to start something from scratch. It's like a marriage, like building a company is such a high commitment. It requires such a high buy-in, that kind of the bar sits extremely high, and we hit that bar and then decided to try it out, to figure it out.
Dream. And so today you're sitting in front of me, currently CEO of Moss. Give us a bit of 20 seconds on kind of where Moss is today, what type of organization it is today.
Yeah, so we are around 300 colleagues across Europe. We have built a suite of products that enable customers to close their books much faster, to remove manual steps in finance, in accounting, to get much better control over what's going on in the company. And this just saves them a ton of time. It actually saves them time and buys them some headspace to do other things. And this is how we help them on the product side, on kind of customer impact side. But then furthermore, it's an organization where we hope people can thrive. We focus a lot on establishing the right performance culture. Building a tech company is incredibly hard, right? So like it basically a ton of other players around. You try to disrupt something new. It's no processes, their product is still early, so it just needs this incredible focus and energy. So making sure people get that growth mindset, that kind of performance mindset, and help the company improve while they'll also improve in their own skill sets. And that's maybe kind of more on the team side and human side of Moss.
Dream. So as we roll through today, there's kind of really 4 areas that we're going to cover. So we're going to look at some of the problems and what are some of the challenges that small businesses or businesses are feeling, right? Everyone on the call today and all of our customer base are incredibly close to running businesses, operating businesses, right? So I know that everyone is going to be feeling some of the pain that we're going to be talking about. We're then going to talk a little bit about what's changing, right? We are seeing a shift in the way that organizations and operators think about their tooling. And we're also going to think about, okay, well, what are some of the maybe the best practice, some of the things that we could be putting in place within inside our businesses to consolidate, to improve, to streamline. And then we'll do some Q&A at the end. I really like to keep these conversational, right? Like, these are meant to be intimate. These are meant to be fireside. These are meant to be useful and valuable, right? We've got someone here who has scaled multiple organizations, and so is going to have a wealth of knowledge. So if there are questions that are coming up to you as we're rolling through, please just throw them in the chat. Our team will make sure those are kind of filtered through to us, and we can kind of ask those as we go, and to keep it really, really relevant. There are going to be a few polls. The slides are also going to change as we kind of roll through to kind of guide us along that way. But where I'm going to kick off is around sort of the broad trends, I guess, that we're seeing in terms of the consolidation of tools, and maybe a transition from best of breed solutions to bundled all in one suites. And I think the kind of macro and commercial background that we're all operating in is really setting a little bit of the tone to that. But Ante, I wanted to kind of ask you, not necessarily what you're seeing from your customer base, but also what are you seeing internally? Like, turn the spotlight on yourselves as an organization. Is that a theme that that you're feeling and that you're seeing? Is there a pressure that you're talking to teams about? Okay, how can we consolidate? How can we think more efficiently in terms of our tech stack and our tooling and how we roll through that?
Yeah, it's a big discussion. It's a constant discussion. I think it's very, very important. And we have it kind of in different areas and different degrees of complexity and impact. Yeah. I think that currently most time is spent on thinking about what the future will look like in terms of AI adoption, AI tooling. That's one big package. The second big package for us now, especially as we hit a certain size and age, companies 5 years old, I mentioned 300 employees, 50 million ARR. So we're hitting now a point where some of the foundational infrastructure, like the CRM, like Salesforce, slowly becomes like a refactoring patient, So we're talking about like those. We talk about the big infrastructure pieces, and then we talk about the long tail of pretty specific products and tools that help either single teams or even single pain points. And it have to be managed, have to be orchestrated, need to be kind of supervised in terms of cost, right? Like user base, adoption, all of those things. So yeah, it's a big, I think it's very important. It's a big cost center. If you look at Moz and the P&L, it's tens of thousands each month. So it needs good care. And on top, the ROI needs to be there. Yeah. So yes, we have the cost side, but now what is it? How is it accelerating our teams? How is it helping us win? So yeah, it's definitely kind of an important and exciting phase.
And you mentioned AI there, and I think like it would probably be not be prudent of us to kind of maybe not just talk on that for a second, because it's such a theme. And I guess one of the things that I think it is really interesting, and something that we're seeing definitely a lot from our customers, is kind of like, it's hard to pick up a newspaper or go on LinkedIn and not read something about the impact that AI is having, right? And that can feel like a huge amount of pressure on an organization, right? And often, as in any organization, you guys at 300, us at 50, you don't always have enough resources and time to do everything that you want to do in the way that you want to do it, right? And so I guess I'd love to ask you, thematically, like, how do you take a really complex problem and a really complex subject like AI and try and make it simple for people to think about? Okay, actually, what is a simple first step that I could take to think about such a big topic like AI, and maybe I haven't got the time and the space and the people to necessarily do that. Have you got any thoughts on how you could kind of reduce that down to something really, really simple that people could tangibly think about?
Yeah, sure. So I can share what we have done, but I would never ever claim that that's best practice, or that's excellent.
Sure.
We don't know, right? It's like early days. But what we have done is so one, we brought AI into the conversation in all hands, in our Friday demos, in specific share outs, and we invited some of our colleagues that were forerunners to show what they have done. And it started simple with prompts. It went into kind of agents, single use case agents. There's been some workflow automation. We talked about tools. So basically open up the forum for people to understand how others have leveraged AI to improve something. That was kind of step one. Step two was we had a training for the leadership team. So we picked, I think, 25 people from leadership team, and we had a training or a boot camp on with the goal, train the trainer. Because ultimately it needs to come from leadership. The leadership needs to see the opportunity, see the direction, and help their teams evolve. So gain some headspace and time, get some kind of help and direction, and the ambition, to actually spend time on AI. Both in product and in the customer-facing products, so in the MOS platform, but especially also in the workflows in our business. So the second thing was it's a workshop to train the trainers so they see it and they understand it. And then last but not least, we are now is kind of making a few picks on the infrastructure. I think it links really well to your topic here, to our topic here. The question is, what's going to be, so are we going to go one module, multi-module? What's going to be our workflow tooling or workflow software? Are we going to differentiate between commercial ops and product/engineering teams? So what is the pick, in this crazy pace? We piloted Agent Space, for example, for 2 or 3 months. And this was quite a lift, like 20 people of the team were designing their own agents and testing it, for research, testing it for workflows, to later come out and say, it's probably not the right fit for us. It's a fairly big investment. Now we have to redesign, you have to copy paste all of those agents and workflows now into a different space. So I think it's a journey. It needs to be a topic to talk about. I think it's important to give a certain forum. It has an infrastructure component that has to be agreed upon, so teams can then actually go. They need to know what they can do, and then they can run. And last but not least, leadership needs to have it at top of mind. If they don't, it can come organically to a small degree, but it's not gonna be sufficient to really drive change if it's desired.
Yeah, and what I love about those recommendations that you gave is those kind of first two anyone can do, right? Like before you even think about infrastructure and picking something and trialing some different tooling in your organization, those first two you can do if you're a business that is 300 people or 30 people, right? And I think super valuable and also just really easy to implement. Make it part of the conversation, talking about it in all hands, talking about it cross company, and then training, facilitation, workshops. And again, there's so many different levels that you could play at doing that. But having it as part of the discourse, both in terms of how you're trying to level people up, I think is just incredibly valuable.
And so I just may add one small add-on for the ones in the earlier stages. Another thing that was really incredible in terms of kind of kicking it off was to just find the first 1-2 small pilots to go with. So the very first pilot we had was, how can we systemize a really good prompt, basically build an agent for the specific kind of prompting of prospect research for the sales development team, yeah, for the outbound calling team. So instead of visiting website, looking at LinkedIn for the, looking at the background of the POC, looking at, company profile, age, all of those things, it was a very structured, long prompt that would, before the conversation, summarize all of that information like in 20 seconds. You can read it up in 5 minutes versus like 1-2 hours of research, and they could just hit the phone and go. They were comfortable with even better information. It was even like a higher degree of information. And that, so the job was so simple. It's like design one prompt. Yeah. And you can, even if you do some YouTubing on the side and want to get educated on good prompts, and even if you don't know, yeah, after 48 hours, you will have a pretty decent prompt. So kind of the total investment to get started is so tiny. Yeah, like it took literally 48 hours to get something out that can be tested with one agent, and then kind of later, if it's good, yeah, can be rolled out to the company.
Yeah, yeah, super helpful. Yeah, start really small in terms of like what you're trying to test in. I think, and actually, that advice, that concept, that plays across so many different parts of running a business, which is that we often think, I'm not going to start that project, or I'm not going to, think about that initiative because it feels like such an enormous piece of work, when actually it doesn't need to be, right? You can package that up into something that's really digestible, something that's really easy for you to make progress on. Like you say, you can boil that down to hours and days rather than weeks and months. So there's that theme, obviously, which is heightening the general dynamics of what we're seeing in the market, which is organizations are being asked to do more with less, right? I think that's typical across definitely in the UK, and I would say accounts in Europe as well, which is that we're in times where there is a pressure within organizations either to grow faster or be more profitable or achieve the same outcome with less. I have a friend that runs an agency, and he said to me the other day, clients are coming to us and saying, we want to pay you 25% less, but we want the same output, the same outcome, right? Because their budgets are being squeezed. So I think we're seeing examples of that all over the shop. And I think that also then translates into roles and responsibilities, which is that all of us are probably having to wear maybe a few more hats than we did 3, 4, 5 years ago. You're seeing the combination of roles rather than having clear owners of different things. People are being asked to play across the stage in terms of running their organization. And then I think as part of that, we're seeing consolidation of tooling and a pressure to consolidate tools across all departments and across all different parts of the stack, and we see it in HR. And so I just wanted to throw it to you, Ante, in terms of when people arrive at your front door at Moss and they say, hey, we need your help, what are they typically coming to you for, and what are the things that you're hearing from them in terms of maybe the pressures and the challenges that they're seeing in their business? And so let's start there.
Yeah, and you mean in particular prospects, clients, or colleagues at Moss? Yes, prospect clients. Yeah, it's a bit differentiated, but there is a very clear prior one and prior two, and the starting point is friction in manual processes. So basically, time wasted, and just like run super inefficiently. That needs to be kind of improved. And the single kind of situations can vary. It can be the process to collect receipts. It can be the process to pull information from invoices, receipts, and kind of plug them into finance. It could be approval flows like Slack communications, emails. Some people even like still with signature folders. So there is this big theme around, we have a manual process that's not really connected, not automated, and it goes across like a number of touch points. And this is the main kind of area where we help. And I would assume it's similar, happens to us on the finance side. I would assume it's similar on the people, culture, HR side with your products. At least what we see, because we also share customers, right? We have this integration, we love it, we share, there's a customer base that's connected, and they all come with the same, they come with the same spirit. I want to digitize and automate my work. I want to just get out of all of those manual steps so I can do other things in my working day. I can have more impact. And that's the core. And then the other area is around how it connects to other processes in the business, and that's the fintech side of Moss. Yeah. So yes, we have the workflow SaaS suite around automating everything in accounting, controlling, etc. But there is a certain point in time when they have to pay for things. Yeah. So they need to move cash. They need cards. They need like wire transfers. So we decided to plug that, like the financial products and services into the base offering, and this is the other area and point of friction where customers come. Either it's super cumbersome for them to issue cards to employees to manage all of those transactions, or it's very cumbersome to kind of do accounting on their bank accounts. It's just not connected. The transactions kind of happen on bank account, but then it's not a good workflow. And then we help them putting this into one journey, making it one product versus different platforms.
And it's interesting. Do you think people are thinking, or organizations are thinking kind of like silo by silo? So, there might be people listening, people watching back who are thinking, okay, I feel like I'm under pressure and I feel like maybe we are using too many disparate systems across our business and we should be thinking about consolidating. Do you think prospects, customers, potential customers are coming to you going, I'm thinking just about finance? Or are you seeing a shift and you're seeing people go, actually, I'm thinking about a much broader set of kind of job families within our organization, and I guess people are running a bit more sort of holistic projects on, okay, what does our entire what does our future tech stack actually look like, and looking at these as a combined group, basically.
Yeah. So it's a mix, 100%. It's definitely a mix. What I see is it's mostly driven by the company size, by the stage in which the business is, and so one observation is on smaller businesses, let's say 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 employees, there is a desire for like a very holistic, broad, all-in-one. So, for example, a Revolut bank account will have a lot of things that will help you also automate your finance, manage multi FX, foreign exchange, if you have an international business, and a lot of other things. And probably it's the best product for them. Yeah, because it can do a lot on a complexity level that's low, but sufficiently high for a small organization. We see a significant change when companies start becoming bigger, when they grow to 10, 20, 30 FTE, and then kind of I see another cutoff point between 250 and 1,000. Yeah, so somewhere in this like 500 FTE plus minus range, it breaks again. And for that mid piece, they are looking for, or we see they're looking for functional products. And we are in that category, by the way, too, right? So we think about what is the best software for our people and culture team to run, talent acquisition, HRIS or HR management, and maybe some other things. Finance is thinking about what is the best software to kind of connect to my ERP or my accounting software, so I can run everything in accounts payable, everything in accounts receivables, and so on. And our sales team is running a similar consideration. It could even be that between account executives and the BDRs, they kind of choose different things. So it's kind of the function thinks about how can I holistically solve my jobs, yeah. And the important point is it's functional but still holistic. That's at least how we mostly see it. And then when companies get even bigger, we see more single point, verticalized, very deep single point solutions. So in our world in finance, the accounts payables team is maybe a couple of accountants. They will look into how can I automate my job for my specific industry and my specific workflow, like in a very extensive way, no matter if it connects well to the other teams. Yeah, just like how can I get my job done really, really well, and that's what we see. I think in general, there as also software products mature, there is a certain value and ROI in solutions that can do more. Yeah. So it's just the administrative side. You know, if you think about running the users, yeah, managing the users. If you think about all the data that's decentralized and collected, all of the insights, especially now with AI, that can be delivered on top. I think there is some tendency, and logically it makes sense to rather consolidate, you know, into a very strong, powerful infrastructure tool versus run a ton of single point solutions that kind of require a lot of admin and don't give this data edge and insights edge.
Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely see that same kind of split in terms of, we like to be someone's first system. That's how we think about ourselves, and then we have to go on that evolution journey with them, right? And I think sometimes we do that well, and truthfully, sometimes we don't do that as well as we'd like to, and that's definitely part of where we want to improve, and serving those disparate what is relatively a vast cohort of customers in terms of the different stages of their journey that they're on. I think it's always a challenge. Talking about
right, if from how so your product can help them end to end. You can do basically at that stage. They can run employee engagement, right? They can already have a pretty sophisticated offering that serves their need, like across the board. And I think that's exactly what they kind of look for. They could also go and try to acquire a very specialized employee engagement product, yeah, and it's just going to be a mess to manage. You know, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of effort to set it up. It's going to be more expensive because they just stack up versus, benefit from synergies. They're going to have to invite the company, explain them why they need another tool to log in. It's just it's a lot of additional friction. And by being able to offer that more comprehensive suite, I think it's a significant ROI. It's just a significant value.
For sure. And yeah, we definitely see the kind of human side of this stuff. There's the kind of technical component of this, but every time you've got to stand up in front of the team, whether you're a 20-person business or a 200-person business, and say, we're using another tool, and this is why, and this is what you need to do in it. It's it's a lot, and also, I think the more you do that, the less engaged the team become in actually doing inside the tools what you need them to do, right? If the cognitive load that you're putting on your team members is so high because you're saying, there are, 6 or 7 tools that we're asking you to engage with, when actually it could be 2 or 3. We definitely see the sort of the compliance angle, the sort of the amount that the team actually engage with the product go down if customers are requiring team members to have that multitude of tools that they're engaging with. we were talking a little bit about the size and the, how businesses evolve over time, and I think I'm a big believer in kind of being vulnerable and sharing stories and all of that good stuff. And you guys have obviously been on a huge journey, and it's incredibly impressive where you've gotten to in 5 years. It's truthfully amazing. Are there some moments at those different transition points that you talked about, like 5 to 10, and then like 10 to 50, and 50 upwards, and then on to 250, and are there some mistakes that you made, or some moments where you were like, okay, this system that we've got now, or this tool that we've got is now completely broken, and it's not working, and we didn't think about that enough in advance? Like any anecdotes that would be
no, for sure.
useful.
No, for sure. So like even have a couple of categories in mind. So I think the first big point of potential friction and value is buy versus build. So we messed up buying, and we also messed up building in previously. So the very first engine to build our customer was built. It was a product that we built internally, and it became kind of a pretty heavy maintenance thing. So as we expanded, as we got new pricing plans in place, multi-product, modular platform, some add-ons, kind of some incentives, it just got like more and more complex. And then we went out and wanted to buy something. So I remember this moment when the team said, basically, we're just like, we have 3 engineers constantly busy here. We can't afford that. Let's go and buy something. And they did like a discovery for a month or so. And then we contracted and went into kind of setting it up. It was a total shit show and a big mistake. I'm not going to say which tool it was to not kind of shame anyone. Maybe Moss was just bad. But the outcome was we had to go back, and we had to, even rebuild. So went from build to buy, and then kind of rebuild in that phase. Why? What was the main problem? And this was kind of like my second category of thought is the understanding I gained now, in this whole situation was we have to think about tools as a product. It's the same as the product that we build in engineering. We have to think about Salesforce as a product, not as a CRM tool. It's a product that helps us be much more efficient, much better transparency, visibility, much more grip on the sales pipeline, much more predictable on et cetera. So thinking about the tooling landscape as a product to boost company efficiency and effectiveness. And it's something that we missed, in quite a few instances. So just by kind of having some core things like the backend, all of our internal stuff, then kind of the everything around data warehouse, then the CRM, and our accounting software /ERP, and then suddenly like it would just dock like things bam, on all different ends. New software here, replace this one, and it's not, if it's not designed with any idea of how it's supposed to be connected, what the end impact is, which metrics it should drive, like which type of product it is, it very often leads to issues. And we had a ton of those issues. So we bought stuff, we turned it down again, we implemented, but not end to end. We didn't get the benefit we hoped for. It broke certain connectors. It broke reports. Like we have seen all of it. So my biggest learning was someone should wear at least like with 5% of their mental capacity, the head of a product manager for internal software and tooling. And Charlie should be thought in that way, from like the people and culture lead and maybe CEO or whatever. And Moss should too. It's exactly the same thing. Like how is he going to what is he going to drive the value creation of our company? How is he going to connect those basic infrastructure to bank accounts, to other things, so that we actually get the full value, that it doesn't mess up things left and right. And
Yeah, that's super
because,
helpful. I appreciate you sharing. And yeah, we've definitely made a whole bunch of those mistakes ourselves. And you know, it's both ways, right? It's the tool and it's how the organization integrates and thinks about it. You know, I'm conscious that there are probably people listening to this and engaging with this that are thinking, you know, there's a particular tool that I want to introduce in my organization. You know, maybe it's Moss, maybe it's Charlie. You know, how do you think about creating the right buy-in internally when you're presenting something? You know, are there tips and tricks and thoughts that, or at least as a CEO, when someone's bringing a case to you and you're like, yes, I think you made this case really well, I'm engaged with it, you know, I think it's a great opportunity and a great spend to approve. You know, what's some guidance that you can give people that's really tangible in terms of how they might think about that themselves?
Yeah. So I think one kind of mistake we did is in those like very hot tech markets in 2021, when funds were also available at huge scale, there was no cost consideration, at least on tooling side. Yeah, in other areas maybe yes, but not so much on tooling side. So what happened is the kind of the adoption and the engagement and the ROI of like software was not great. Instead, we contracted like a large amount of tools and they were not used end to end, and we kind of like even like run different tools for the same purpose in different teams, which is hyper inefficient. So the very first recommendation I would do is a tool needs to always be assessed against kind of an ROI. It needs to, what is it going to boost? You know, what's going to accelerate? What's going to be the headcount efficiency they will expect from it? How can we measure it? You know, it doesn't have to be like too complicated. We don't like business cases, but someone needs to write one page at least, else it's kind of not worth it, you know? If they can't formulate on one page, what is the impact? What do I want to drive? How I want to kind of assess in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, then probably it's not a good idea to contract. Yeah. So this was I think the first biggest learning and, you know, thing that we did. The second one I would think of is more on around like proper end-to-end implementation execution. So another area where we saw kind of insufficient returns was often linked to, you know, this great motivation to buy a new tool and automate. But then it's kind of pain in the ass to like do it really well. You know, it takes a lot of time and you have an agenda on the sideline and you need to like grow your team and whatsoever. So the implementation execution is done, you know, let's say 50%, you know, like it's not like perfectly thought through and you haven't like tried all of the features. And then what happens is that later it's kind of is helpful, but not great. You know, you have this like clunky process, or on talent acquisition, we switched tools a few times, for example, and we kind of like the questions didn't really make sense, and how we could log in, you know, references was not set up well. So it just like because of not having had the patience, you know, to do it really well end to end, it becomes a shitty experience later. And this is a homemade problem. So what I told the teams and what I kind of my direction is, so one, it's going to cost you 2 to 3x more time than what you think now. Yeah, like it's just be ready mentally. You have to like de-scope your OKR plan, because if you want to do this well, it's going to take much more time than what you think. Yeah, this is number one. And number two is, I want you to kind of sign off to be very, very clear on your commitment to do this end to end. Because we're not going to like sign up to a year or 2 or 3 contracts if you are not promising you will do this well, you know, because it's going to be pain in the ass and you're going to have to iterate. But if you don't do it, we're not going to get the value. It's a learning we had so often now, you know. Let's just do it right. If we do it, let's do it right. Otherwise, we don't do it at all. It's fine. Those were kind of the...
That's some real wisdom there that you dropped at the end. I think you're totally right. I'm gonna try and wrap us up just after quarter 2. I'm conscious probably people are on lunch break, and I want to make sure that people I've got a bit of time before their next meeting. I never like to take these things right to the close, because we're all incredibly busy, especially in the world where we're sitting behind computers most of the day. So I'll always give a bit of space. And we've got a few questions from people, so I'm going to run through those. But before we do that, and I need to wrap up, before we do that, if you were to take yourself back to when you were 10 people, what's the one thing on this topic area that you kind of wish you'd known and you wish you'd thought about at that moment in time?
Yeah, I think so. Quite often the initial team expands into this kind of like the culture and mindset multiplier, right? Like the co-founders, the early leadership team, the early employees, they multiply as the company grows. And I think thinking about what is our thinking and what is our mindset and our kind of what's our culture around buying software. Like just thinking about I'm going to buy tools, AI tools, non-AI tools, whatsoever. How are we going to, what are our 3 or 5 guiding principles? Just agree on those, only those, like 2 hours max, in the room with those 10 people. What are going to be our guiding principles? Like, for example, if we get it, we implement it end to end with care and, scrutiny, just formulate those that are right for you, so that as you go, you don't build a Frankenstein. Because everybody, I think, has a certain degree of a Frankenstein, but it doesn't have to be. I think it can be done better. And yeah, we just saw the pains of wherever we didn't do it right. It was super painful.
Yeah. A couple of questions from people that have been listening. One of the ones that I wanted to talk about, one of the ones that I want to bring up that I think is really interesting is, what do you do when people are coming into an organization, into a role, and they already have experience over one particular tool, and they're like, I've used it before, I want to use it again, I need this tool to be successful. I've definitely seen that a lot in my time, my career, and sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical, right? Because I'm like, anyone that comes into a role and immediately is like, I have to have this thing to do my job, I'm like, I definitely question it. But how do you think about challenging in a way which is ensuring that as a business you're thinking broadly about what's the best tool for us, what's the best approach here, rather than just, having someone come in and go, I've used it before, I want to use it again, and we definitely see that a lot in our space, which is that, you appoint a new HR manager or an HR director or someone to run your people function, and they're like, I've used, this tool, so that's what I want to implement. Yeah. How do you think about, that? Because I'm sure you also see it yourself.
Yeah. So I think what is really important as a baseline, both for kind of that colleague that has an idea, as well as the manager, could be me, could be someone else. We have to be super agile, right? The agility kind of is one of the key strengths of like a tech startup or a young company. And it's one of the key traits, how we identify opportunities and win, what it means is, it needs to be like a very open mind and smart thinking around, why. So 1, what is kind of the objective? 2, like what will be kind of the payback, the ROI? And 3, now what is the right tool for that? Yeah, to achieve the objective and get to the ROI, what's best? So I think if someone is stuck on one thing, I would challenge the agility and the smart thinking around what is the right tool. Yeah. As a manager, just being on the brakes to, I'm not sure. It means like we're not open to listening to kind of opportunities to make the company better. Yeah. So also shouldn't happen. So some balance on, some balance on what is the exact objective. Let's be super clear. Then what will be kind of the return, and then last, is it really the best? Yeah. And yeah, and of course people come with baggage and experience at the same time, you know, that can be great. You're super fast in setting it up and you know how it works and you can go and win, but it's also baggage by kind of being stuck on one thing and maybe it's not the right one. So so it's always this trade-off also, right? Are we now on the positive side because we gain, you know, based on the experience, or are we in a negative camp where it's more like baggage? We are kind of stuck on something that maybe doesn't make sense.
Yeah, dream. Well, look, and we've got a bunch of questions, but what I'm going to do is we'll follow up afterwards with them, and we're going to do a follow up to everyone that joined and everyone that said they were interested in this event, and obviously this is also going to be something that people can continue to engage with and watch. Upon Charlie, we're kind of bringing together a kind of resource center from all of these conversations and talks. One of the things that I'm just incredibly passionate about and why we do these, and a huge thanks to Ante for making the time, is that we want to put suppliers and providers and businesses in front of our customers that we really trust. Because it is hard often to find a partner in a space that you trust and that you can work with and you can scale with. And often it's that we've actually worked with them. And I'm really, really proud to say that in Moss's case, that's the situation. We're a very, very happy customer. And Paddy, who's seen like floating around on the call at various points, was one of the people in our team that suggested that we implement Moss. And yeah, genuinely can't fault it. And to be in a scenario where we're talking to our customers and saying this is a company that we can stand behind, and we can do that because we've used it ourselves, and I use it most weeks, is just, it makes it so easy, right? And Moss have continued to be a partner that are genuinely passionate about supporting entrepreneurs and supporting people that are building businesses and scaling businesses. And when you think about Moss and Charlie together, we're both organizations that are trying to remove manual steps so that we can give businesses and people great control and ultimately spend more time on the stuff that really matters, growing the business, driving the business, creating that strategic change. So yeah, it's been an absolute joy to kind of unpack this topic. To close, Ante, if there's one thing that you'd want people to do, one place you'd want them to go to kind of understand what Moss is about, where would that be? Where would you send them?
I would send them to a brief demo. I think it's 20 minutes invested to understand, the value potential. I think it's the best conversation. One of our agents kind of explain the setup, the pains, and then understand how it can help. I think is the fastest and best way. And I couldn't agree more. By the way, I think the beauty of Charlie and Moss in this specific situation is that we have this API integration, and that means that team setup, inviting people to platform, even things like having a deputy for approval flows while people are on vacation. So there's like a vacation connection. So people know that we have to reroute like the approval flow. There's like some small things that make it so punchy, that make it so strong. So this combination, and I hope a lot of Moss customers will kind of therefore also consider Charlie and vice versa, because it's very powerful. It's like the perfect case of really well connected tools across business functions.
Dream. And if you are a Charlie customer, we've got some exclusive offers in our marketplace. We've got a free spend management review, so go and check that out. Find the marketplace on the left-hand side of your screen on the Charlie platform. And also we offer Charlie customers up to 20% off Moss SaaS solution. You've got a couple of QR codes there. It's 10:02. That's when we said we were going to finish. So enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Ante, thank you so much for giving up some of your time, valuable time, important time, and sharing some of your wisdom with us. And yeah, we look forward to seeing more of you back at events. I know we've got a bunch coming up in the rest of October and some in November. So we're going to keep this rolling. We'll see you all soon. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Goodbye. Many thanks. Have a nice day.